USA Today has recently ranked the ACC quarterbacks for the upcoming 2025 season. CJ Bailey is where?
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Happy Tuesday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Again, thank you all for your patience with us. It's been a crazy couple weeks back in the saddle here on Tuesday, and we're talking ACC quarterbacks. I saw an article from Michael Clark of Pack Pride. He didn't write it. In fact, USA Today is the one that wrote the article, but they ranked the top quarterbacks from 1 to 17 for this coming 2025 season in the ACC. CJ Bailey is 15th out of 17 in conference. Now, before we get too far into it, I did the work, so you don't have to. I'm going to read you off the other of the 16 quarterbacks. So, number one overall, really no discussion here, Cade Klubnik of Clemson. I think that's pretty much unanimous at this point. We all get it. Number two, Haynes King of Georgia Tech. I get it. Kevin Jennings, number 3, SMU. I get it. Carson Beck from Miami is 4. I have some gripes, but I get it. Darian Mensah from Duke is 5. Chandler Morris of UVA is 6. Then this is the first of 2 very lazy instances. He just has basically whoever starts for UNC at 7, whether it's Max Johnson or Gio Lopez. That is incredibly lazy. I'll get into more on that in just a second. Number 8 is Miller Moss from Louisville. 9, Thomas Castellanos from Florida State. 10, Kyron Drones from Virginia Tech. Again, 11 here, he just has whoever's going to start for Wake Forest. Robbie Ashford or Deshaun Purdy. That's incredibly lazy. Number 12, you have Eli Holstein of Pitt. Number 13, Grayson James of Boston College. Number 14, Ricky Collins of Syracuse. Number 15, CJ Bailey. And then 16, you have Devin Brown from Cal. And then 17 is whoever plays for Stanford. Kenton, initial thoughts. Go.
CJ Bailey might not even be the most egregious ranking on this list. That may be the worst part about it. I am genuinely confused. When I say I'm genuinely confused, I am very much so confused as to what Kyron Drones did to get bumped down to 10. 10? I can see. Here's my thing about this. What has Max Johnson or Gio Lopez shown you? What have you seen from either one of them to say, oh, they're going to play high-level ball here? I'm not even mad at the transfers that played either in the Power 4 or were stars in the Group of 5. Darian Mensah, I think that's a very high ranking for him, but I can at least understand where you're coming from. I can understand it. I can potentially hear you out. Even though 5, I think is still ridiculously high. Chandler Morris, although he played at North Texas, he has put up enough to where I'm like, you know what? I get you. I can see where you're coming from. Fun fact, Ricky Collins, who is right in front of our guy CJ Bailey, is not even slated to be the starter for Syracuse.
Yeah.
They went out. If you don't believe me, hear me well and hear me on this. Coming out of spring ball, Syracuse felt the need to get another quarterback out of the portal. I'm very confused. Because you have a guy listed that I'm 90% sure will not be the starter game 1. And even moving past that, right? The 10 interceptions were what were used as the gripe against CJ Bailey. The exact description says, Preston is service ahead of schedule as a freshman when Grayson McCall was injured. Bailey posted solid stats with 2,413 yards and 17 TDs. He was intercepted 10 times, the number that must be reduced if the Wolfpack are to get back to the league's upper tier. A full offseason as a starter should serve him well. Well, what happened to serve Ricky Collins this offseason? I like Thomas Castellanos. The last time we saw him, he was being benched. Yeah. Last time we saw Thomas Castellanos, he was being benched. That's just the facts. And by the way, he was benched for a guy that's well behind him. Thomas Castellanos is 9th. He got benched for number 13, Grayson James. So either you agree with me that O'Brien is one of the worst coaches in America, which I firmly stand in that camp. I firmly believe he's a terrible coach. Or something is fishy about these rankings, because everybody tells me that I'm a hater when I call O'Brien a terrible coach. Well, USA Today must agree with me on that, or else something funky is going on, because you believe that this head coach is smart and he's playing a player that's much worse than the guy that he had transfer out. This list, I'll tell you what, during the dog days of summer when we're just doing lists, I get it.
Yeah,
sometimes it feels like we're going with just, the conventional wisdom, but sometimes it feels like we're just kind of throwing darts at a board and wherever they land, saying that's it. And that's what I think happened here, because outside of the top 4 to 5, I really don't think that whoever wrote this watched a lot of these guys play or did any modicum of research into these players.
Yeah, we know the deal about these summer lists. They oftentimes don't mean a whole lot. But my only ask is, if you're going to do one of these, especially from a prominent publication, this is USA Today we're talking about. They have a poll. They have one of 3 major polls in college football, and they have people putting this stuff out. My only ask is, when you're putting a list like this together, can you try? Can you do a little bit of research? Can you act like you know what you're talking about? CJ Bailey was the 2nd highest graded true freshman quarterback in the entire country last year. That's better than Dylan Raiola of Nebraska. He was a 5-star blue chip prospect. That's better than DJ Lagway of Florida. And he's projected to be having a massive breakout season this year for the Gators. This list kind of reads to me like they just forgot about CJ Bailey. They just honestly, they got down to that end of the list and they're like, oh, well, we haven't put him in there yet. So, all right, here you go, 15. Completely disregarding the season that he did have last year for the Wolfpack. Now, by no means am I saying CJ Bailey is a top 5 quarterback. He should be this, he should be that, he should be ACC preseason. No, there's a lot that he had to work on, obviously. We saw him thrown into the fire last year, and we understand that as the season went on, he got progressively better, week by week, just a little bit better every week. To completely overlook all of that and just say, well, yeah, we don't know who's going to be quarterback at UNC, but yep, they're going to be 7. That is unbelievably stupid. And the same case at 11 with Wake Forest. Wake Forest has completely gutted their football program. They have a new coach, new players all over the place, both sides of the ball. And they're like, yeah, Robbie Ashford or Deshaun Purdy. Yeah, that's probably better than CJ Bailey by my mark. What are we doing? What are we doing? This is the perfect fuel, I think, for CJ Bailey. And whether he's looking into the media or the team at all is looking into the media, I'd imagine this is not going under the radar because this is insane. This is straight insanity. I tweeted basically 15th in the ACC in what? Date of birth? What are we taking into account here? Is this by age? Is this by height? Is this by checkers? Your ability to play checkers in a masterful manner? There's no possible way CJ Bailey is the 15th best quarterback in this conference. I know it. You know it. Everyone listening to this podcast knows it. And people that are not even Wolfpack fans know it. People that we played against, or even when we had the national spotlight for a couple of the games later in the year, everyone knows that he's not the 15th best ranked quarterback in the ACC. This is a joke. Summer lists often are. And again, my only ask is, if you're going to do one of these, can you try? Can we just consider a little bit of effort? Robbie Ashford or Deshaun Purdy at 11. How embarrassing.
You tell me where you think this player should be ranked, okay?
Okay.
2,555 yards, 18 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Where do you think that player is going to be ranked?
That's probably 8 or 9.
8 or 9. That's exactly 8. Miller Moss.
There you go.
Miller Moss threw 1 more touchdown and 1 less interception in the exact same offense that convinced people Baker Mayfield is a number 1 overall pick. He played for Lincoln Riley. Okay? For those of you who don't know how good of a coach Lincoln Riley is, he literally had a stretch of multiple back-to-back number one picks. Neither one of his number one picks have ever made a first-team All-Pro in the NFL. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. Neither one. But guess what? When you transfer to play for him, it's up. Jalen Hurts, undraftable, couldn't hit the broadside of the barn until he played for whom? Lincoln Riley, who all of a sudden vaulted his stock up to a second-round pick. Now he's a Super Bowl champion. And a guy who played in that and didn't flourish with receivers like five-star plus Zacharias Branch, with talent all around him, the type of stuff that, with all due respect to the Wolfpack's weapons, because I do think that we have wonderful weapons, and I don't think that recruiting is a perfect metric. However, it is a reason that the teams that tend to win all the championships tend to have a lot of blue chip players, okay? And you're telling me that a guy that couldn't get it done with blue chip players in the ultimate system for quarterbacks, and by the way, I keep talking about the two back-to-back number one overall picks. Caleb Williams, number one overall pick, also played for Lincoln Riley. So a guy who has coached 3 number one overall picks, you were one of his lowest producers, and granted, I understand that Miller Moss had to take somebody else's spot to get there, but so did Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams had better stats than this coming into the season. And you're telling me that there's a gap between him and CJ. Yeah, okay, cool story, bro. Cool story. I propose that we start drug testing them folks at USA Today. Break the kits out and do it the way that I had to do it when the NCAA would drug test us. Get somebody in there to watch. Get somebody in there to make sure that there's no funny business going on, because there's no way somebody sober wrote this.
These are the folks that have Heisman votes. Like what are we actually trying to do here with a list as egregious as this one? My last remark here, if you needed just one more stink on this whole situation, Kenton already harped on Ricky Collins at Syracuse. Ricky Collins, before he was at Syracuse, was at LSU for 2 years. In those 2 years, a combined 7 passes. He has done actually nothing at the college level. But sure, he might start, he might not start, but he's ahead of CJ Bailey. I bet he is. Coming up next, we're getting into some basketball talk. Ven-Allen Lubin was the man of the month for Will Wade's squad. What do we make of this? More on this after a quick word from our sponsors. Our Tuesday sponsor is Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head out to the ball game with friends and family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize that you want to be in the stands. Well, that's exactly where Gametime comes into play. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without all of the stress. With the money that you can save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it all possible. Gametime is the official ticketing partner of the MLB, making it easy to browse the app for any exciting upcoming MLB game. And of course, we got all summer. All-Star weekends coming up in Atlanta. Maybe you live close to there. Use Gametime to help you get in the stands. Take all the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, create an account and use redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Middle portion of our Tuesday show, switching gears into some NC State basketball. This caused a stir, as one might expect that it would at the end of last week. Ven-Allen Lubin, the transfer from the Dirty Foot Club, was named the man of the month for Will Wade's squad, effectively for the month of June. And this is the first of, I'm sure, many instances of this where he's rewarding his players for all of their hard work. I do remember that Matt Abel received the first honor in their first week of summer workouts, or whatever you want to call it. Ven-Allen Lubin then took actually the next 2 in a row after Matt Abel, and then subsequently was named the man of the month. Before we get into the obvious conversation piece of this, Kenton, what do you make of Ven-Allen Lubin being the man of the month? Are you concerned that maybe you aren't seeing more names, or maybe Ven-Allen Lubin is pushing the issue?
I think Ven-Allen Lubin is just pushing the issue. I think that one of the things that I say all the time about championship coaches and coaches that win a lot, they reward greatness, point blank period. You know, when you reward favorites and you reward, oh, I want to build this pipeline, or oh, I want to make sure, you know, this kid's parents are nice to me. That's how you lose. That's how you lose. When you reward players who show up and do it the right way consistently, I mean, hey, that's just what it is. Sometimes you see the same players doing things to a T a lot. That's just what you see here. I'm not really concerned about, you know, Ven-Allen Lubin earning man of the month, because, again, he's a phenomenal player. Remember when we were having that conversation about who's going to be the starter if Paul Embiid comes, right, and both of us came to the conclusion it was going to be Ven-Allen Lubin. Like, that's the type of player this young man is. It's not something that you or I looked at and was like, oh, man, you know, it's most likely going to be somebody else, or I guess he would kind of have to. No, it was like, hey, this guy, he's a phenomenal player. By all accounts, nobody said anything bad about him as a person or anything like that. I think he's the type of guy that can get it done. So ultimately, seeing him do it the right way when he's in the program is not surprising at all.
And I want to remind everyone that in that first video in which Matt Abel won the Player of the Week, Will Wade said that this is based on 4 pillars, and that's nutrition, being on time, being a good teammate, and then what you do on the actual basketball court. So this is a real thing. We're not making it up like the Dirty Foot Club fans would like to suggest we are. And I'm with you. I think this is a very good sign that Ven-Allen Lubin has come into the program, put his nose down, and gone to work. What else could you want from a player that's, especially coming from the Dirty Foot Club, is vying for playing time and needs to be, I mean, at this point, he's going to be a pivotal player in that front court. You want guys to come in and bust their tail immediately and gain the respect of the coaching staff, of his fellow teammates, and be nose to the grindstone for the entire summer, because we're looking forward to him having potentially a pretty big year here in Raleigh. So I have no concern about this. Like, it's easy to say, like, why isn't Darian Williams the Player of the Week? Or why isn't Terrence Arsenault? Like, I thought we were supposed to be excited about all these guys. Yeah, you are. But the fact that Ven-Allen Lubin has come into the program and he is turning the heads of the coaching staff, that's a very good sign. This roster is one of the most talented we've seen in a long time, and Ven-Allen Lubin is the guy that's pushing everyone else. And I'd be interested to see what happens for the remainder of the summer in July and August. Now, the second piece of this conversation, which is the obvious part, they were across the street in tears over this. They're making it up. Oh, this shtick is old. This is such a ridiculous bit trying to get our attention. Is that what you think this is? Are you so worried about Ven-Allen Lubin working hard that this has to be fake? They're just trying to poke fun at us. Rent-free, yet again. I mean, that's quite unbothered behavior, wouldn't you say, Kent? They're clearly not thinking about Ven-Allen Lubin, not thinking about Will Wade, will not even consider that Ven-Allen Lubin might have a decent year in Raleigh.
Winners win. Losers keep their eyes on the winners. And that's all I'm going to say there. I think that it's embarrassing. And honestly, I can admit, anybody can admit, they have a very storied basketball history. Why aren't you even watching anybody else? Why do you care? It shouldn't even be. If I am a fan of a team with multiple national championships, somebody takes one of our players and that player appears to be having fun and being happy over it, and so what they got to do with me? Y'all seem like the type of people to watch your ex's Instagram after y'all break up from the burner pages. I know you. I know what you are.
We know what you are.
We know exactly what you are, you dork. You know, it's embarrassing, but oh, how the mighty have fallen. You know,
ain't that right?
How the mighty have fallen. And I would like to see a fall even deeper come this fall. You know, I'd like to see just one time. You know, we only get one crack at this thing, Mr. Wade. We only get one. And you know what I need done. You know what I need done to the Dirty Foot Club. Please. We're already excited. We're already singing your praises, but there's a thing you can do to quite literally put yourself over the top in year one.
To turn heel, pun intended. But no, I do think that this is a mark of how far they have fallen, because what once was a superpower in college basketball is now like literally in tears that Ven-Allen Lubin is working hard. Like just chew on that for a second. They're so convinced that he's undersized and he had stone hands that he can't possibly be working hard for those in red and white. That's impossible. We recruited over him. Don't you guys know that? Don't you know he's undersized? Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about it. Will Wade's pretty confident, and I'd be hard-pressed to believe a Wolfpack fan that doesn't have that type of confidence in Will Wade. So, yeah, we'll see. But you're right. He's undersized. He's not a good player. He's not working hard. We'll take it from here. Don't worry about us. Coming up next, we're talking some NC State football to close us out on Tuesday. We talked about the game with the highest stakes. What about a trap game? Do you see any trap games on the NC State football schedule? More on this after a quick word from our sponsors. Last couple minutes of our Tuesday show, talking more about the NC State football schedule here in 2025. Quickly approaching, we're just a little bit over a month away from kickoff. Very excited to get this thing going in the month of August. But we talked last week about the biggest game, essentially with the biggest stakes in the game on the schedule. Now I want to kind of switch gears and talk about trap games, Kenton. I'll pull up the schedule here in just 1 second. Can you think of any potential trap games you see for the Pack in 25?
A definitive no. There is not a single trap game on here. You know why? A trap game implies that you are at a certain level or stature that a team is going to catch you slipping, per se. You know, for those of you who don't know, ask your nearest friend that grew up in a not so savory part of town. They'll tell you what catch you slipping means. Now, with that being said, East Carolina, they beat you last year. So that them beating you is not catch you slipping. Virginia, again, I don't think that you're this good coming into this year where you can sleep on Virginia. At Wake Forest. It is at Wake Forest. Enough said. If you are a Wolfpacker and you have to travel to Wake Forest, you know exactly what that means. Even last year, in a year where, it kind of felt like that was Claus's last year. We saw Wake Forest come into our house and take one from us. At Duke, this is the most successful period of Duke football that many of us have seen since Cutcliffe. And if you exclude Cutcliffe, this is the most successful period in Duke football ever for most of us in terms of our lifetime. Virginia Tech, that is a team that has a quarterback that, yes, it feels like Groundhog's Day believing in him, but when he is hot, he can do it with the best of them. Campbell, I guess you could say they could catch it, but if you lose to Campbell, we got some bigger problems to discuss. Notre Dame, better team than you on paper. So that's not a trap game. Pitt, again, more recent ACC champion than you. A team that started off their season extremely hot to their starting quarterback got hurt last year. I don't see a trap game there. Georgia Tech, a team on paper better than you. Miami, a team on paper better than you. Florida State. Maybe that could be a trap game. Maybe that's the closest thing we'd have, because by that point in the season, I believe Florida State's going to be limping their way home. And the Dirty Foot Club, I swear on everything I love. I'll put this on my mother, on all 10 of my nephews and nieces, on my jersey from Cass Tech, on everything I love and hold dear. If you fall for a trap game against the Dirty Foot Club, you don't deserve to wear the red and white.
I just think there's no such thing. Like there is no reality in which that game is a trap game. We all know that it is always one of the biggest games on the schedule. It's a rivalry game. Trap game in that context, it simply does not exist. But we often say this a lot when we talk about things like this, and we both have to provide an opinion, that we never actually share our opinion before we get on here to keep it purely organic. So I actually echo Kenton. We have the same answer. There are no trap games. There is not a single one on this schedule. And Kenton said it very well. To suggest that any games could be trap games is suggesting that you are essentially a level above the majority of teams that you're playing.
Yeah.
If you can look on this schedule and find me a multitude of teams that NC State is projected to be head and shoulders better than, outside of Campbell, because that'd be the only one, feel free to inform us. I'd venture to guess there aren't any. And that is because that is the truth. Not even ECU. You know why? because you pooped your pants in the Military Bowl. You got embarrassed. And as fate would have it, you got to open the next season with them at home. That is nowhere close to a trap game because, like I said last week, that's the biggest game on the schedule. If you're not awake and alive for that one, don't even bother playing this season. Don't even show up. Don't lace them up. Don't strap on the helmet. Don't even try. If we have to pump or prime you for that one, get out of here. Get out of town. Then as you look through the rest of these, Virginia is not a conference game, should not matter. We know what Virginia is. We got to take care of business. It's another home game. You can't be surprised by Virginia. I'll talk a lot more about Chandler Morris as the season gets closer. The dude can sling it. So, there's no reason to be surprised by the level of quarterback that he can be. That cannot be a trap game. Any game on the road, I think you go ahead and rule those out. So on the road at Wake Forest, a place that we've historically struggled at for reasons completely unexplained. There's just dark magic over there in Winston-Salem outside of 2 years ago when Brennan Armstrong kind of took over the show. That can't be a trap game. That is a game that, quite honestly, we don't have a ton of confidence to feel overly confident about that one. Even despite them rebuilding with a new coach and essentially a brand new team, you still got to show up and handle business. I mean, Kenton basically hit the nail on the head for Duke. They're rolling right now. They've had good teams the last couple of years, and they've, shoved it right up our behind to the dismay of us because we've had to sit here and kind of wonder what the heck is going on. Why can't we compete with Duke anymore? It's ridiculous. That's not a trap game. Virginia Tech, no. Kenton already told you about that one. Kyron Drones can take over any single game that he plays in. He is that good, despite what the rankings say. I'm a big Kyron Drones believer. I think he's a good quarterback. I'd be hard-pressed to believe that he won't show you that in Carter Finley. Campbell, it's not a trap game. You know why? That's your free space. If you lose that one, it's another one. If you can't handle Campbell, forget it. What are we even doing at that point in the season? So, no. Notre Dame, not even close. In fact, you are their trap game in that instance. You are the trap. It ain't the other way around. That's the biggest opponent, obviously, we play all season. That'll be on the road, not a trap game. Pittsburgh, no. On the road, can't do it. Georgia Tech. In fact, I think last year I said that they were our trap game. That was on the road in November. And we all thought at that point, which is obviously false, that we were going to have a good team and perhaps Georgia Tech would have a reason to spoil us late in the year. Well, we weren't that good at that point, and so it didn't wind up being a trap game. That was last year. It ain't this year. Georgia Tech is probably better than we are. I still love their offense. I think it is one of the most dynamic in college football. We also saw the way that they hung with Georgia last year. When they're on, they can play with anyone. And so for that instance, it's not a trap game. And then the last three here, Miami, obviously not. Florida State, I think Kenton makes a lot of sense. If Florida State is checked out at that point, then maybe, but what's NC State going to look like at that point of the season? If you're not having a fantastic year, then it's not a trap game. And that's really all that needs to be said here. So I don't want to see the word trap game for any of these 12 from NC State football fans this fall. There are 0 of them. NC State is not in a good enough place. They have not shown us that they are a good enough team now to have trap games. Every single one of these 12 games is winnable. I think that's true, but it's also losable. Even Campbell, believe it or not, even Campbell. There are no trap games on this schedule, and that should be handled as such from Coach Dorn, the rest of the coaching staff, and of course the players this fall. There's a lot of uphill climbing this team's going to have to do because we think they're probably a middle-of-the-road team. Until proven otherwise, trap games don't exist. That will do it for us here on Tuesday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop your comments in the comment box. Give us your thoughts on CJ Bailey being ranked the 15th best quarterback in the ACC by USA Today. Yeah, just go ahead and tell us your thoughts there. Tell us what you think about Ven-Allen Lubin being named Man of the Month by Will Wade in the first month of his summer workouts with the new squad. And give us your thoughts on if you do see any trap games for NC State football in 2025. Mash that subscribe button if you have not already. We'll see you back here tomorrow on Wednesday. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.